I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is a webinar about fostering collaboration in solar recycling field between all the stakeholders so we can really get participation off the ground. I'm joined today by Suvi Sharma of SolarCycle, Jeanette Freeman of FabTech, and Tyler Kanshazeski of Innovative Solar. Each of our panelists today will have 15 minutes to kind of dive into their background, and then we'll have a 15-minute more broad discussion at the end of that time. And we will get started today with Tyler, so take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Allison and C team for having us. Good to be on with you, Suvi and Jeanette. So I work with Innovative Solar as the Vice President of Sustainability. I've been in that role since about 2019, and since then we've kicked off a lot of sustainability initiatives and reporting and keeping track of metrics. This is one of our sites in New York. You guys have probably seen a lot of pictures about the pollinator habitat happening or agrivoltaics. So Innovative Solar has jumped on that, and it's been fun to see the biodiversity at some of the solar sites. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of circularity in solar, and this picture here is from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and it's basically a kind of a concept of reusing everything and getting rid of the idea of waste, basically, and using, if there is any waste, whatever you're doing in manufacturing, you reuse it somehow. So I think this is a cool graph to start off with. It's kind of confusing, but you can go on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation website and see this and kind of get more of an explanation of what's going on here. And this can be applied to pretty much any industry. So I thought a nice way to start off. This page, I wanted to bring to attention some different resources available to us because solar has gone so mainstream. I was doing some research last night, just seeing all these groups that are talking about sustainability and solar and circularity, or panel recycling, ways to improve the industry. So these are all groups. SEIA obviously is the big one, and they have a SEIA National PV Recycling Program. So that lists a lot of the major solar panel recyclers right now. There's a solarrecycle.org is a map showcasing some of the different recyclers, refurbishers, resellers of mostly solar equipment. And there's NREL, that the Department of Energy has some great resources. PV Magazine, Solar Power World is constantly pushing out articles. So I think it's good for us to rely on these third-party resources or nonprofits that are trying to promote more circularity and sustainability in the industry. So in my role at Innovatus, I noticed we were having a lot of waste pile up in this picture on the right. Sometimes, it looks like this on a job site. So our green team, which was formed in 2019, looked at waste as one of those sustainability metrics we could track and improve on for the company. So we broke down all the materials that are typically piling up at a job site. A lot of wood pallets, cardboard boxes for protection, and mostly the glass is the damaged solar panels in shipping or during construction, or if there's a weather event, you can get damaged solar panels during construction. Metal, conduit, banding, different wire, and then plastic, different banding films and such. So we broke it all down to figure out, is there a way to sort and separate these so we can essentially have a zero waste job site? And we came up with the Zero Waste Initiative And we learned that we can sort and separate these waste streams on site. Definitely getting the loose or lighter materials in containers or dumpsters so they're not blowing around the site. And then work with local or regional recyclers on the logistics and collection, and then potential rebates. And what we found is that you can save money by doing recycling instead of your typical landfilling. And then we've even made stickers where we give them out at the job site, the picture on the right, where it shows you can write how many pounds we've recycled. So I think it becomes a fun thing culturally. So the initiative has grown. One thing we're looking at is a PV pallet. It's the reusable pallet. So I think we could encourage more manufacturers to use reusable packaging, and that would help us reduce a lot of the site waste. And one of the big hurdles is that the national infrastructure around recycling is still behind and needs to improve. So sometimes when we're working in someplace in Ohio or New York, and you're calling local regional recyclers, they're not always there. So you're having to rely on more of the national infrastructure, which is a little bit behind. So it would be great if there was more incentives and new recyclers coming on board for the future to help improve things. So these, I mentioned our green team and our companies tracking some key sustainability metrics. So these are the four big ones that we're doing right now. So one is construction waste diverted or recycled. So we're about 50% since 2019 recycled. So we want to get closer to 100%. So we have a long ways to go. We do have two really big sites happening right now that are, I believe, above 90%. So that percentage should jump up quite a bit. And then the third one, pollinator habitat, planted or under development. So we have about 500 acres since 2019. And that number, again, is going to jump up pretty drastically because of these big sites that are happening almost complete right now. So those two initiatives, construction waste diverted and recycling, which includes damaged equipment, our broken solar panels, and then pollinator habitat are the big ones. And then, for every megawatt is built, there's CO2 abatement, carbon sequestration, which is great. And we're looking at adding some safety and quality metrics too. So our metrics could grow. And my last slide here, this is kind of a lot to take in. But what we came up with is sustainable solar development best practices. So this is kind of like our one-page plan, and I think every company can make their own plan, but maybe people can get some ideas from this. And thinking about solar as more circular, from the start to finish of a job, and some different areas where we need to improve. So, system design, supply chain, managing materials on site, safety and quality in construction, the vegetation management, end of life planning, decommissioning, which we'll dive into, is going to be a huge thing for the industry in the coming years. And then just vitality and education for all, so that we're continually improving and educating our communities and each other on how to continue to improve and do things more circular or sustainable. So I should be able to stop sharing. Did that work? Cool. So yeah, I can kick it back over to you all, and we can dive into more about recycling.
Great. Thank you for that introduction, Tyler. We'll proceed next with Jeanette Freeman of FabTech.
Hey, thank you, Allison, for putting this together, and it's great to see my friends, Sui and Tyler, and happy to be here. So I'm Jeanette Freeman, and I work with Babtech. Babtech is a national refurbisher of solar panels and recycling, partnering with recycling partners throughout the country. I joined Babtech about 3 years ago, March of 2020. Ta-da! And it's been a wonderful experience. I came completely out of, I was not in renewable energy at all. I was in the nonprofit sector. So I came to work with my sister and brother-in-law's company and been excited to really develop this side of it and begin to make some nice, wonderful relationships in this industry. And it's been very exciting, and I've loved this second career of my life. So I'd like to share more about the refurbishing end, since that's what we specialize in, and maybe give you all a little peek into refurbishing panels and reuse of the reuse market, some of the challenges and that sort of thing. So I will share my screen and share some pictures and slides with you all. All right, so of course, we look at landfill diversion options of reuse and recycling, and basically reuse is possibly getting paid for solar panels that qualify for reuse. It's a panel that's not at its end of life, and so it has the capacity to provide solar for somebody else. And then, of course, if it does not qualify for reuse, sending it on to the recycling chain. All right, what are end of life? What considers the end of life for a solar panel? It doesn't necessarily mean 25 to 30-year-old panels, and that's something that everyone talks about. Well, you know, it's 25, 30 years before we're going to have this problem, and that's certainly not the situation. What are some of the reasons that solar panels are taken off of their present use? New construction damages, we're seeing a lot of this right now because new construction is so prevalent and there's so much growth going on. But at the end of every project, there are damages, just like Tyler was talking about waste on a construction site. This particular picture you're seeing here had about 13,000 damaged solar panels. And we were able to help save them by refurbishing quite a few of them. I mean, probably only 20%, but that did help offset the cost of recycling and shipping. Other reasons, the physical parts stop working during the life of the project for a number of different reasons. So we'll see things like that. Weather and disaster damage, a lot more things coming in now through certain types of weather damage or disaster like fires. And then, of course, decommissioning, where for many different reasons, and this is usually things we're seeing on commercial sites, larger commercial sites, maybe they're re-roofing, selling properties, there's a reason they just want to take off the solar, or more often repowering the existing technology. A lot of the technology's been on roofs or been out there for about 10 years, and the technology has changed so radically that it really makes sense financially to repower that technology. All right, so what qualifies for reuse? First of all, what doesn't qualify is broken glass. If the panels have any degree of broken glass, even cracking, that does not qualify, and that gets sorted to go to the recycler. If it's got severe backsheet or vinyl damage, so that is not just a little bit of cracking, but that's where some sort of cracking or cuts into the vinyl can really penetrate or into the glass, into the cell. And then, of course, just really old solar panels don't qualify, or low wattage. Basically, their resale value is next to nothing. So that's not something that we would take in for reuse. So what does qualify then? Typically, we're looking now at panels that are over 250 watts, panels that are 10 years old or less. They may have slight damage, like bent frames, minor backsheet cracks. They might have the glass scratched. They might have some browning of the cells, snail trails, green bus bars may affect their value. But still, they're usable, and they are not generally affected with power too much. So that those type of panels with those types of visual defects are something that really require no repair or anything like that. They do require cleaning and some different things and testing to make sure they're working, but we're not normally going to do anything to fix those. Where we have to fix panels and can fix them is if there's electrical issues, junction boxes and wiring issues, because those can be fixed and those can be replaced. So I thought I'd just give you a peek into our process to show you what happens. Used panels come in and they come in old and dirty, and that begins the next process, which is to sort them. And then panels are brought in, and each panel has to be visually inspected, looking for just those things that I mentioned, the glass, of course, and they have to be looked at both sides. Then they have to be classified, because when they get in through the marketing process, they have to be, they have to have a clear description. What kind of faults do they have? Do they have grain bus bars? Do they have browning of the cells? That lowers the value of those solar panels, but that has to be classified for this type of market that we're doing. Then they go through a cleaning process, and then they're tested. Not every solar panel is tested. That wouldn't be an efficient use of time. But we do have several different testing options, and usually when loads come off a decommission, they're pretty much operating the same. So we'll spot test to make sure that the load is working well. And then the panels are ready to ship for new customers. Actually, they have to go through quite a bit more to be able to get into the system, inventoried, and to be able to be sold and then shipped to new customers. Who buys used solar panels? So these reused panels, refurbished panels, they're resold very inexpensively compared to what they'd have to, a customer would have to pay for a new panel. This makes it affordable, where they may not normally be able to afford to put solar. So we're seeing a lot of do-it-yourselfers, RVers, off-gridders kind of being the first players into the market to buy reused panels. Hopefully not the last, that hopefully we can continue to expand the users of used modules. So in our situation, that is primary. International customers are also very interested in used panels. So although there are some challenges that we can go into in a little bit, but also the used panels are sold with a 1-year warranty, just to make sure that they are actually working and that the customer is getting something they paid for. So again, let's look at new panels. It's important in the whole circular economy to continue to build this market for used panels, because of the number of used panels that we're going to see coming into the marketplace, or I should say coming off sites. We need to continue to build this market for these used panels. So why do they buy them? Basically, the first reason is cost. The cost of buying used for individuals is about 25%, maybe 50% of the price. And for individuals, that's more difficult to find even new panels, because usually like through Green Tech, you're selling to installers in bulk, right? So the individual wants to go buy, 1 pallet of panels to do a project. So they can get used solar panels much cheaper. The other issue right now we're seeing the cost of new panels has come down quite a bit. So that does drive down the prices for used panels as well. But also this reduction of costs for new panels is making repowering more attractive, creating even more surplus of used panels. So it's important to continue to build these markets for reused panels and lower the labor costs for facilitating this distribution. And also freight costs are just, freight costs are another prohibitive thing for exporting solar panels, which I do want to talk about. I think I've got another screen that will talk about that a little bit more. So again, I mentioned, that growing the resale markets in the future is going to be important, because we are going to start to see, we're already seeing even this year, many more used panels coming off of decommissioned, off commercial sites, off residential sites. And we want to continue to build this resale so that these can be reused and provide solar in an expanding way to provide affordable solar for more and more people. So, other options that I could see happening to do that would be, utilizing used panels for more affordable housing and community solar, and some commercial options, churches, nonprofits, how could they get into used solar? Also in expanding into international markets, because many countries live in extreme poverty, extreme energy poverty, and they could benefit from used panels. Now there's some challenges because, again, these countries don't have an infrastructure of recycling set up. So what happens to their waste? And then it's like the other balance on the side of that, there are in some of these countries that they have 50% of their population that doesn't have power. That adds to education in poverty as well, where people are not getting educated. They're not, and if they're not getting educated, they're not going to solve problems in the future. So providing used solar panels into some of these markets does take a greater infrastructure so that those are getting into the right hands. So there are a little bit of challenges. The other challenge on that is the cost of shipping them and that sort of thing. So we're continuing to, look for partnerships that have a good infrastructure. Also in working with nonprofits that can provide, that are funded well enough to be able to provide. When panels are donated, they're typically donated and there's solar panels, but the cost is really in the execution of that, of getting those panels shipped and through the logistics process to get them where they can actually be used. So anyway, that's a little bit of a little touch on some of those international markets challenges, but also I can see new residential options, utilizing used panels with for lower income and independent installers that would work with that. So we can look at, it's sometimes used panel market has sometimes been compared to cars, and I think it's a good analogy. When when they first started building cars, eventually there are going to be used cars, and so that used car is sold to a different person, not the one that cannot afford a brand new car. And so then the used car could provide a service to that other customer. So we're looking at that as well as a comparison. The other thing is that reuse can offset some of those recycling costs. Now, I've been privileged to work with a lot of green tech renewable outlets in different parts of the country, the Southeast, some in Texas, Washington, California, to work a program where they would collect their usable panels, usable panels that were not too damaged, and their panels that needed recycling, and then have them come to us, and then we exchange the recycling costs for the good panels. And it's worked out really well. So I hope that we can continue to refine that so that it is a win-win, so that that can be a continued growing thing. I see that as I see green tech could play a really key role. Some of the big challenges for recycling it is in the residential, because of the more regional drop-off points have not been available. and for installers. So I could see a possibility and scenario where Green Tech's facilities could offer a recycling plan to their customers and charging for that, right? And providing a service so that their customers, their installers and the installers' customers would have a way to drop off solar panels. And then those could be, obviously some of those need to be recycled and will be damaged. And a lot of those panels, it's very possible that they would not need to be recycled and they could be used in the secondary marketplace. So there's a way that I think that could continue to be explored and worked with. So key partnerships to enhance our resale market. This is something that that we're doing, and it's something that is important, I think. For our market is the do-it-yourself market, really working with influencers. Influencers are really educating people as far as the resale market. Also, independent installers that can provide lower cost options to residents and communities, particularly for lower cost solar. And then, of course, expand partners to valid, reliable world markets. And then expanding excellent nonprofit partners that are established with funding to be able to ship these donated panels. So lots of different options, and I'm glad to share a little bit of it with you. This is me doing my happy dance with lots of solar panels coming in that we're processing. So I think that's all, unless anyone has questions, or maybe we're doing that afterwards. But also I do have a free ebook I'm happy to send to anyone. It's just kind of an overall picture of recycling and refurbishing at our website, fabtech.net. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. All right, and we'll go over to you, Suvi, next. And then, yes, we'll end with a round of questions.
All right, last and least, I like that photo, Jeanette. Looked like you were stomping on the panel, breaking it, ready for us to recycle. So
yes, that's part of my plan for you. Break them.
Thanks for that. And it's really great to be here. We're talking about building a circular economy for solar, and it really takes a village. What Tyler was talking about doing from the installer perspective, very critical. What Jeanette and Fabtech are doing to get more life out of panels, very critical. All that has already been input into those panels. We should try and use them as much as possible. And I think Green Tech has a very important role, as Jeanette pointed out, to play in this, because there's you guys have so many drop-off points and so many touch points with the installers out there with the long tail, which is really the hardest part from a recycling and collection and reuse standpoint. So I hope that we can all continue to work together on this. And I'll talk about our specific role and what we're doing at SolarCycle, which is I've been in the solar industry for 18 years. This is my third startup. The two others, Solaria and Nextracker, have spanned residential and utility scale. And I came to the conclusion that there's two things all solar panels have in common. One is they produce electricity from the sun, clean, low-cost electricity from the sun. And second is eventually they're going to die, and they need to be recycled and put back into the supply chain rather than landfilled. And so that was really the foundation of SolarCycle. And we're a little less than 2 years old now, so pretty young company, but working hard to establish and build a circular supply chain for the industry. Just taking a step back for a minute, this is an important point to make here is just think about this for a minute. Solar panel, you guys deal with these panels, they're pretty large. This year, globally, we will manufacture and install 1 billion solar panels. It's mind-boggling. We're gonna have more solar panels on the planet soon than people, and growing very rapidly. And we're talking about both in the US, globally, in the energy infrastructure to grow that 10x. Okay, so that means that we're seeing in the next 10 to 12 years, we're going to be manufacturing and installing about 10 billion solar panels per year. It's mind-boggling, actually. Solar is the new king of energy. It's dominating. It's Energy Information Administration just put out a report that more than half of all new power generating capacity globally going in the next decade is solar photovoltaics. We also need to grow the recycling infrastructure 1000x because it just doesn't even really exist today. And that's what we're helping to build, and why we started the company. So what we are working on in this mix is, there are companies that make solar panels, there are companies that install and own it. And what we are working on is to build a high-tech infrastructure that it consists of factories and equipment and technology to recycle these materials, extract the materials, out of the end-of-life panels, and then start manufacturing some products from those. So you can think of us as not simply a company that takes waste product and takes materials out of them. That's a big part of what we do. But a big part of what we're investing in and doing R&D on is how to make new materials from these old panels. So if you were to boil down what we're trying to do in a nutshell, and what we hope to do, is to take an old solar panel and make a new solar panel out of it. That's really our guiding vision for what we are working on in the technology and infrastructure. And with that, I believe that because of the way the solar panel is constructed, which I'll talk about, glass, metals, which are infinitely recyclable, I believe we have an opportunity to not only create a circular supply chain for solar, but to create the most circular industry in the world and set an example for the rest of the world and the rest of the industries of how they can do what we're doing in solar. So the way we see it is the problem is the solution. I won't spend much. I thought Jeanette did a great job outlining why solar panels reach end of life, or a first end of life, weather damage, construction breakage, O&M, and so on. But for all these reasons, and repowering and decommissioning, solar panels are forecast to become the largest form of e-waste. And what we are working on to do is to convert those into valuable materials for new solar panels. NREL did an interesting study that looked at, by 2035, if we applied advanced recycling processes to end-of-life panels, for the new panels that need to be manufactured at that time, we could provide more than 50% of the silver needed for those new panels, more than 30% of the aluminum, more than 30% of the silicon, and then we worked with NREL and did that same for glass, and more than 30%. So that means instead of going and mining, the earth for these materials, we need to mine solar panels for these materials. And I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this little fact, but solar panels use somewhere between 15 and 18% of the world's annual silver supply, and growing. That's forecast at current rates to become over 100%, meaning that basically all the silver that we mine today will be used in solar panels. That's not sustainable. We need silver also for other applications. We can't, and it's not easy to go find and build silver mines, so we need to mine these solar panels to get those materials out. I just show you this in terms of our team, and the reason is that for me, technology, people, all that, technology companies, it's really about the people. And what we've tried to assemble is a group of people, from technologists and PhDs to people that have run large-scale factories, to do what we've done in solar manufacturing. If you look at a solar panel, why is solar dominating the energy markets? It's because solar has gained scale and sophistication and low cost, and that's happened through a lot of capital, through a lot of innovation, through a lot of great people and companies, and we need to do the same thing now for building a circular economy. We've raised about $40 million in the last 15 months since the company got going, and we need to raise a lot more. If you look at solar today, we're investing in the industry, well over $1 billion a day in new solar power plants, right? So that's the scale that we've reached, and we need to now apply that same rigor and capital and innovation and people and technology to developing the circular supply chain. And then, these are the types of customers that a lot of people ask me, where do we get our panels? It's from it's from the village of solar. You know, it's from everyone. We get them from asset owners like Sunrun and AES. We get them from manufacturers like Qcells and Silfab. We get them from EPCs that build these power plants, O&M companies like NovaSource, and importantly, distribution partners like Greentech. You know, as I mentioned, you guys touch so many different locations, so many different customers. Very, very important to work together to build that infrastructure that we need to get these panels into the proper recycling facilities or reuse facilities to begin with. So I'll talk about a recycling process now. So we have a first fab that we have built in Odessa, Texas, kind of in the middle of nowhere. But there's a lot of reasons why we put it there. It's almost smack dab in the middle of the country. Good place to put our first facility. That facility is operational. We put all of our own custom designed equipment. Basically, what I did is because I've been in solar panel manufacturing and BOS manufacturing for a while, is to take people that had developed really innovative manufacturing equipment for making solar panels. We said, now let's reverse engineer that, figure out how to demanufacture these panels. We need real customized, unique equipment to do this, because if you go to other facilities like e-waste facilities, they don't have the proper equipment to remove frames efficiently, to remove glass. They end up actually junking most of the panel because their shredders and all can't really handle it. And so we, just like with solar panels, when you make a solar, if you go to visit a solar panel factory, I had that image up front. That equipment has been designed just to make solar panels. And that's why it's so efficient to make solar panels. So we're doing the same thing in how to recycle them. We have a capacity to recycle 500,000 panels per year there, crystal and silicon panels. We are expanding that to in Q1 of 2024 to 1 million panels per year that we will have there. And we're ramping those lines up as we speak. And we see close to about that volume that we will be processing there next year in that facility in Odessa. And we've received all the certifications, you know, ISO certifications that we need there. So what we do is, in terms of the process, the first step is, you know, most solar panels, as you guys know, come with an aluminum frame. Very important to remove that frame. Very important to remove that frame efficiently and quickly. We have fine-tuned, for example, a machine that we designed just to deframe panels, and we can deframe panels in about 30 seconds. You know, fully deframe it, take it to the next station. You know, all automated. That is very important to do because we get high-quality aluminum alloy. Interestingly, the World Bank did a study that looked at what are the climate impacts of the clean energy transition. You know, so as we go towards solar and wind and electric cars, there's obviously some cost. There's some environmental cost to do that, whether that's in mining materials or in manufacturing products. The single biggest contributor to CO2 in the entire energy transition is aluminum frames for solar panels, more than anything in batteries. Okay. We need to get those frames off of the panels and put them in recycling. Why? Because when you make new aluminum out of existing aluminum alloy, you need 95% less energy than melting bauxite. So, so the single biggest thing that we as a global community can do to reduce the impacts of the clean energy transition is getting aluminum out of solar panels and recycling them for the new generation of solar panels. So we get those aluminum frames out, we sell them to aluminum companies, okay, that will then remelt it and make new aluminum products out of it. Next, we get glass out. It's a lot of effort actually to get glass out. Because why? Because the glass is glued to what's called EVA, which is the encapsulant material. That's, you know, the way solar panels are made, right, is you make basically, you guys are there, I think, in Georgia, you're probably seeing that. You laminate this and you create a very robust laminated product that's going to sit out there for 25 years, 30 years. Well, that means it's hard to take apart. And so we work a lot to remove the glass cleanly and purely without contamination, because if it's contaminated, you can't really use it to make new glass again. So a lot of our technology, a lot of R&D and innovation is to remove that glass cleanly so that it does not have either organic contaminants like EVA or inorganic contaminants like metals. When we get that glass out, the best thing to do with that glass is to make new solar glass out of it. It is the perfect chemistry. It's got low iron. Solar glass is very unique glass. It's the lowest iron glass in the world. And the reason is that iron absorbs the exact same wavelength that solar cells absorb. So you want as little iron as possible in the glass. And so you want low iron. So you need actually, to make solar glass, you need very specific mines of silica. There's only 2 of them in the US, for example, that even have enough low iron to make solar glass with. There is no solar glass manufacturing in the US today. Unfortunately, we have nowhere to send that glass to make solar glass at SolarCycle. So what are we doing about that? We are working with partners to establish solar glass facilities here in the US that we can then eventually sell this and send this cullet to make new solar glass with and create that circular supply chain. And then last is today we are the only company in the world, believe it or not, that is actually getting the metals out of the panels, which is the silver, silicon, and copper. It's very important to get that. I was talking about how silver is crucial to the solar supply chain. And so we crush and shred the rest of the laminate, the plastics and the metals, and then we separate the metals from the plastics. A lot of our core technology and unique technology we've developed, including our CTO, who was developing this at University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. What a lot of his work was doing was that seminal work to separate cost effectively the metals out. And so we get all the silver out. Well, we get 98 to 99% of the silver out, and the copper and the silicon out that can go back into making new materials and new products, particularly for the solar industry. So that's the process. It's all machines, customized machines to do this. The only machines that are pretty standard are the shredder crushers. We customize them a little bit, but for the most part, they're standard. But the rest of it is all custom equipment that we've developed from scratch to do this and fine-tune for deconstructing a solar panel efficiently and cost effectively. I will tell you that this is not a fine-tuned process that's working seamlessly 24/7. We still have a lot of problems. We have a lot of troubleshooting. Some days the machines work great. Some days they're problem children for us. And so that's part of the process of learning and R&D. One of our core values in SolarCycle is learning. Every day is a day to learn. It actually keeps things exciting. Tell people expect problems, eat them for breakfast. We're a very engineering driven, very R&D oriented company. We have about 20 people in the company with advanced degrees. So we're investing a lot on the technology and the R&D. That's what it's going to take, in my opinion, to really do this right and solve a problem and turn it into an opportunity. So just to finish up, what we're really driving to in the company is a zero waste focus. I mentioned the aluminum and the glass. The glass today we can't put into solar glass, but there are other uses for it. We are able to sell that to other uses. The metals are very easy to sell. Silver is a very valuable commodity. What's hard, the most difficult part, is selling and finding buyers. Not even to sell, just finding someone to take the plastics. Okay, which is by weight about 10% of the solar panel. It's a mix of cross-linked EVA, backsheets, has fluorinated polymers, which are forever chemical type things. Not easy to. That's the only material that we have not been able to find off-takers for so far. That being said, we are very close. We have 2 potential off-takers that would use it for materials to fill into building products. We found very unique building product applications. We've literally just turned every rock to find these and worked with them, and we have to work with the R&D groups. I believe that if not by this end of this year, but by early next year, we will have an off-taker for that plastics, and we will achieve that zero waste, which is basically every single material that we get goes back into putting into reuse in some form or fashion. Doesn't mean we make money on all of it, But that's okay. We will do that irrespective of that. If we avoid a landfill, that's a huge benefit, both economically and environmentally for everybody. So just the last slide here, we do quite a bit of data tracking in the company for both our own reporting, but also something that our customers care a lot about is advanced environmental reporting. What is, when they recycle with us, there's a higher cost to doing that today than landfilling, right? So what are the benefits of doing that? And there's a lot of environmental benefits, landfill avoidance, greenhouse gas benefits. So we have life cycle assessments and analyses that we have models in-house in the company that we provide reports to our customers of what is environmental impact of what the recycling process is compared to landfilling or low value recycling processes. So in the interest of time, so we have time for Q&A. I'll pause there, and I really appreciate your guys' time and attention and inviting me to this seminar.
Thank you, Suvi. I appreciate all of y'all joining us today. You've provided us with some very valuable information. There are, of course, a ton of questions. We'll cover as much as possible in the next couple of minutes. I do want to start with where you kind of ended, Suvi, with it is cheaper at this point to landfill the material than it is to recycle it. But how can we, on the distributor side, encourage and incentivize installers, homeowners, even like ourselves as distributors to start participating in recycling initiatives?
Well, a couple of things on that. First of all, recycling today is more expensive than landfilling, but that won't be forever, and we need volume and scale, right? And so you will see recycling prices continuing to come down, okay? And we're already going to start to roll that out next year to our customers. The way that, most of the time, especially in GreenTech's case, the panels that installers are going to be bringing in, a lot of times it's from repowering, right? Someone decommissioning an old system. And so when you think about the cost of a new system, it's $15,000-$20,000 of a new solar system. The cost to recycle that is actually pretty small. So I think the best way to do it is to educate and inform and the installers to go in when they sell a new system to a homeowner, say, these panels that you have on your roof, I have good news for for an only additional $200, whatever it is for your 15 panels, we'll ensure that they get recycled with our partner at GreenTech. I think the more we can do, like even flyers about that and educate the installers, so that effectively it's the consumer that will end up paying the net difference. But again, it's de minimis in the overall cost of a new solar system. I think that's by far the best place to do it. And the last thing I'll say is it is getting more difficult to landfill panels. In a lot of jurisdictions, waste management is not accepting them. We have a lot of customers calling us right now. They had actually put them in, they'd thrown them in like these big container bins, all broken and trashed. And the landfill operator will not accept them because they're worried about lead contamination in groundwater. And so there's a high risk, and it's getting harder and harder. And so I think that just really it comes down to education. I think GreenTech is so good at doing these. I remember I used to attend so my Solaria days, these sort of beer and hot dog seminars, right, type of thing. I think those are great opportunities to do that and educate the installer base of how they can work with their consumers to ensure these panels get recycled.
And I want to just add that so as GreenTech continues to educate their customers and they continue to use their voice as making the decision and to recycle and really using their voice to the installers, that is very helpful because you have a lot of influence. And when you provide opportunities for them to facilitate some of that, I just think it helps overall in so many ways.
And I wanted to draw Tyler into the conversation because you're kind of facing it potentially with some of your customers. How have you encouraged them to be a part of this process as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just with growing demand for more energy, there's greater population, tying it back to the circular economy concept that, I mean, resources are scarce on the planet and becoming more scarce, more critical. So yeah, I think it's just a conversation with everybody of taking all the material streams, important. Everything serves a purpose. We can recycle everything and really achieve that zero waste concept, and share it across with our partners, with our main subcontractor. We get hired sometimes by a bigger developer, a finance company. So we figure out, okay, if it is temporarily gonna cost more, how are we gonna divvy up those costs? And like Suvi mentioned, we think it's just gonna get more economical. So these discussions we're having now won't be as important in a couple of years, because it's just gonna be way more affordable than landfill anyways. But yeah, we already do have some sites where people are discussing, landfilling versus recycling, based on the area or kind of the knowledge. So that's where, as a sustainability manager, I try to come in and work with everybody to see, the big picture, the resources available to us, and it's almost always a win to go with the more sustainable direction.
Great. And so this is again a question for everybody, but Suvi, I know you have been outspoken against extended producer responsibility legislation to promote recycling, but is there any version of legislation that might help incentivize this, make it easier, make it cheaper?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and I think that it's probably counterintuitive for people that a recycling company would be kind of anti-EPR. And the reason real quick on that is that we feel that most EPRs, when they get rolled out, they can be quite punitive, and they don't really incentivize innovation. And they what we need to do is solve this problem through one of the key ways is innovation and scale. And so what we believe the best policies would be to give the industry some time to develop, send signals that you can't be landfilling these panels long term, but give the industry some time and put incentives in place. And I think the incentives can be things like a fund that could be used for a period of time for recycling, make landfilling more challenging. Right now, it can be challenging to move panels for recycling along state lines, and which you need to do for recycling, but you just landfill it. It's easier to landfill, right? And so I think we need to just create policies that make it easier to recycle, incentivize recycling, send market signals that landfill is going to put an extra fee on landfilling, for example. And those are the types of mechanisms we are working with. I do head the CALSA, California Solar and Storage Association Recycling Committee, and we've worked with them to ensure that because California is looking at legislation on this, to ensure that it's done in a way that doesn't punish the industry. Because the reality is, we are going to have a solar waste problem, but really today we have a problem, which is we need to put more solar into the ground, and we don't want to do anything to slow that down. And so we just think giving the industry time and putting some incentive mechanisms in place for either recycling or some cost measures on landfilling would be the best way to go, and simpler to administer.
Any thoughts, Jeanette and Tyler?
Oh, I agree. I'm always worried if they get too legislative happy that they can cause problems. So I totally agree. Can we get some incentives, and can we make it harder to landfill just to slow that down?
All right. I think we have time for one more question. So moving forward, like to make it a more collaborative effort, what are ways that we as Green Tech can really help participate and make things potentially easier for recyclers, and for the refurbishers in general?
Well, I'll jump in just to start. That is, I think having worked with Green Tech in the past, it's one company, but it's also 100 companies. So I think we have to recognize that. And the way, I mean, we do work with several branches of Green Tech today. And it's a local business, right? It's kind of the way it's structured. So I think we have to operate from that perspective. But it would be good to figure out how Green Tech could have some, kind of like you guys have some standard operating procedures for things that you do, like how that can be done for end of life products and panels, how different branches can make it part of their overall business. And I believe that there's, I don't see, to be honest, end of life and recycling, and I don't think Green Tech sees it as a big money maker, but it's more of, it's a great touch point and providing great value to the industry and to installers. And so having programs in place where installers can come in and they're educated and informed about how they can deal with end of life panels, how to deal with panels that are maybe handled differently if they're being decommissioned after 8 years because someone repowered, right? Those could probably go to Jeanette, but then there's panels that they're done. I mean, they just they need to be recycled, and those would come to us. And so I think we can work together to create some kind of standard operating procedures like that with the branches. And I think Green Tech is in a very unique position to do that with the number of branches and number of installers in the long tail that that the company has.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they're an incredible place. If they even came up with a very simple program that says that we offer recycling for our customers, or something like that. And then I think the idea would be, you've already worked through some of that with us and with Subi. And how can you communicate to one another? Because so many of the Green Techs are independent from each other, but how can you work together? But I just think that with your strong voice and getting that message out to the installers and then get it out to their customers, that you guys could act as some sort of a recycling a drop-off point. And you could, I work with another distributor, they charge their customers, they charge them to take that back because there's going to be costs involved. So and I'm sure that there are plenty of customers that will pay that because they can't landfill it. There are places in California, they can't just go take their solar panels to the landfill. So if there were solutions that you guys could provide to be able to manage that and help facilitate that, I think it would be wonderful.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, to improve the local and regional infrastructures, with the amount of locations you guys have, I think you could really play a big part in this. So it's exciting, and to be more steward-like for the solar industry, because we still have a long ways to go in lowering our overall footprint. Obviously, it's the best renewable energy we got. So, but yeah, it's exciting. There's a lot of innovation for us all to improve.
I think you could be a leader too, that Green Tech could really stand out from its competition as other distributors to be the one that got out in front of this first and to provide that option.
Well, thank y'all again so much for joining us today. This was extremely helpful. We might have some follow-up questions that we'll be sending you later, but we look forward to keeping the conversation going. So thanks again. And thanks again for all the other participants.
Yeah,
thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.